finally that time putting this thing back together. Alright, so I got all the valves in, and now I'm putting the buckets in, and I'm measuring the shims as I do it. I need to measure these, and then I also need to measure the gap between the cams and the shims to figure out if I'm within spec, and if not, I need to know what size to buy. So I have to know what I'm starting with, and then see what the difference is, and then order the right shims. I'm using my favorite tool, and it's actually a free tool. You can find them on the ground, in fact. These are street sweeper bristles. When the street sweeper machine comes by, a lot of these tend to break off, and you'll see these just lying on the roadside. Kind of neat about these is because it's been brushing the street, there's already like a nice little bevel on the end that's super useful for cleaning stuff and getting into, like, you know, tight spots. Just like between the shim and this bucket right here. These, when they're clean, will come out with a magnet, but I'm finding that they're all pretty much stuck in here with just a little bit of like dirt and crap in the bucket, so I'm having to pry them out a little bit. They're even hard to get in because they have to go straight in. Once they're clean, come right out with a magnet. When they're not clean, they're stuck. Alright, so I'm putting the buckets back in as I go and lubing them up. And so we'll measure this shim with a micrometer. And record what it's at here. This is 0.11. Now the specs are only within thousandths of an inch. This is a tenths micrometer, so it's overkill, but I'm using it because the batteries in this thing is running a little bit low, so I don't want it to run out halfway through. But you could totally get away with one of these cheap calipers here. If they're accurate to within a thousandth of an inch, then you're fine. So if you haven't seen my video on street sweepers, I'll put a link to it in the description. But go check it out. These things are super handy to have around the shop, and they are completely free. You just got to look around on the ground. Alright, so I've got this all measured out. And so the next thing to do is I've got to install the cams and then measure the gap between the lobes and the shims. And if it sounds like I know what I'm doing here, I don't really. I just I know how to measure things, so I'm fairly confident about this kind of stuff. I've never actually done a valve job before, so this is new to me, but this is all really straightforward, and I'll show you the math is pretty simple as well. Oh, I'll turn this around so it matches how I have the cams. Alright, so the camshafts are in, and all the fasteners are torqued down to their proper torque of 12 foot-pounds. And I've been checking the clearance of all of the valves and turning with a big wrench here on this point so that the lobes are pointing up when I'm checking, which I believe is the proper thing to do. And then you just slide these little feelers in, and if they go in, then you try the next one up. So that was 9 thousandths, 10 thousandths. Yeah, it doesn't go. So this one's 9 thousandths. So I did that for all of these, and I am super surprised. The intake valves, dead on, right in the middle of the specified range. I'm shocked. 189,000 miles and dead on. So sweet, don't have to do anything over there. And if you remember, I lapped these, but very lightly. So I just lapped the intake ones to clean them up to the point where they, didn't look shiny anymore. So I didn't do too much there. The exhaust is a different story. Some of these I'm off as much as 10 thousandths. But it's still not too bad here. One actually was within range. So exhaust range is 10 thou to 13 thou, and it was at 11. So I'm going to call that one good. I aimed for, say, 12, because what I think is going to happen is the valves will probably settle into the seats a little bit more. So I'll err on the higher side of clearance, because I think that the valves will probably come up a little bit towards the cams on the exhaust side, just a little bit. I'm guessing. I have no idea. But I'll still be within the range. So I measured, if you remember, all the shims. Of course you remember, I just filmed that. Well, that was a while ago, because it took me a while to get the cams in and everything, so sometimes in my head it's a little disjoint. So these are all the measured shim sizes, and now here is the measured gap. This is what we want, and this column is the difference. So 3 thou is way too close of a clearance. We want the shim to be smaller, so that will be clearance of 12 thou. So we need the shim to be 9 thousandths smaller. So then we'll take the shim that we measured. Let's call it 116 for here. So 116 minus 9 thou is 1 0 7. No. Jeez. I can't even do. Yes, 107, right? We'll give 116 minus 0.009. 107. Wow. Okay. I was a math major, if you believe it or not, but arithmetic, I haven't slept in a while, so. So anyway, this will be the new sizes I need to buy, and I'm going to need to buy 7 of them. Some of these, pretty close, but if I'm going to do one, I might as well get them all within the right spec. So let me do the rest of this math with a calculator. It's horrible. And here's what I got. So I also converted these into millimeter, because I believe when you order the part numbers, you have to buy them in millimeter, from what I saw. But I'm not sure, but I did it anyway. So I'll have to order 7 shims. So not too bad. And I'll put those in when I put the head in the vehicle, because I'm going to have to take the cams out anyway to access the head bolts, and so I'll just put them in when I do that. And when I get the head all torqued down and then the cams back in, I'll do one last check, but it should be fine. So sweet. So what did we learn here? I think this tells a story, because the intake was so consistent, and I did have an exhaust here that was within spec. And if you remember, that's number 7, and I hardly lapped that one. I think what this is telling me is this is how much material I took off the valve seats when I lapped them. It's a little bit concerning to me that I took 10 thousandths off. That's really changing the shape of those seats. 10 thousandths is like, I mean, hold on. Okay, so Maybe it's not a ton, but I mean, in the machining world, it's significant enough. Actually, looking at it this way, it doesn't look that much, but on paper it seems like a lot to me. So I don't know. So if you've been following along on this journey, thank you. It's really cool to have you guys watching what I'm doing here, and if I can give you a little bit of knowledge or show you the kind of things that worked or didn't work for me, I really like doing that. And I really like all your comments and suggestions. You know, I learned from every comment, so I like reading them. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to let me know what you think, and subscribing if you like this kind of stuff and you want to hear me talk some more. Hit that subscribe button. There's a new thing about communities or something. You might want to hit the bell next to the subscribe, because that gets you alerted about some community discussion or something. I'm going to try that out. I haven't really looked into it yet, but YouTube told me I should be all over that. So I'm going to check it out. Might be another way to communicate with you guys. Yeah, so we're getting there. The end stretch. I'm getting tired, but pretty soon we'll be buttoning everything up and putting it back in the truck and seeing if this thing actually runs. I got a couple more tips that I want to show you that are just kind of like tricks that not in the instruction manual that might come in handy. But other than that, just going to be probably putting it back together, and we'll see what happens. So stay tuned. All right, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.